You don't want to miss this one. It is no secret that Joe Rogan is not a fan of woke culture. Over the years, he's made his stance clear, calling out the absurdity and contradictions of the movement. So what happens to a guest who tries to bring up woke stuff on the show? Well, you're in for a treat today as we're covering such instances. Needless to say, you can always count on Joe to keep it real with his facts and logic. But before I go on with the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content just like this.
By the way, I'm glad you're better. I'm glad it only lasted a day.
You're probably the only one at CNN that's glad.
No. We're not.
The rest of them are all lying about me taking horse medication. And we should talk about that.
That bothered you.
It should bother you, too. They're lying at your network about people taking human drugs versus drugs from veterinary.
Calling it a horse dewormer is not a flattering thing. I get that.
It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network. And it's a lie that's a willing... That's a lie that they're conscious of. This is not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
To give a bit of context, this was back in 2021 when Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, went on the podcast. It was one of the rare instances when a figure from the lamestream media would go on his show. Obviously, the main topics were the pandemic and getting people vaccinated, but just a month before this episode, Joe announced that he caught the virus and that he was getting ivermectin, which was prescribed to him by a doctor. For some reason, CNN didn't like that and ran endless stories about him, framing him as an ignorant person. So when Sanjay went on the show, this was Joe's chance to get retribution and completely expose the lies.
Did you see that thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse, you are not a cow, stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making the
Nobel Prize
in 2015?
Yeah.
No, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is thick.
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
Here. Somebody gave it to me.
Man, this one is hilarious. To make things clear, there are two types of ivermectin, one for animals, one for humans. The animal version is for things like deworming horses and cows, while the human version is an FDA-approved medication used to treat specific parasitic infections. It sounds simple, right? Well, not for CNN, because they made it sound like Joe was raiding horse stables for medicine. Then the debate stopped being about whether the drug works against the virus and turned into why would a news network deliberately lie and frame someone as doing something they didn't, but Joe kept pressing and eventually got Sanjay to admit that they were wrong.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
They did. I watched.
You watched?
I watched.
You watched? No, I don't think there's glee.
They did.
No one takes...
Joe Rogan says he has COVID, taking livestock drug despite warnings. Yeah.
Jamie had to pull this up.
You want to play it? But my point is, you're working for a news organization. If they're lying about a comedian taking horse medication, what are they telling us about Russia? What are they telling us about Syria? Do you understand that that's why people get concerned about the veracity of the news?
Well, Joe did something almost nobody else does. He held the MSM accountable. What's funny is that after this episode, CNN did a segment where they interviewed Sanjay about the experience of having a lengthy conversation with Joe. They showed a few clips from it and, of course, criticized Joe and took what he said out of context, but never dared to share the particular moment where he called out CNN's lie. Sanjay even went as far as saying that some of Joe's arguments were mental gymnastics. In the following years, they always made sure to release articles about Rogan as if he had a personal feud with the guy. Eventually, their viewership tanked and the Rogan Experience is the most popular podcast in the country. and in the world. I never thought I'd say this, but this interaction was nothing when Graham Hancock and Flint Dibble had an intense argument on the show.
The influence of Flint and his colleagues on media and culture. And again, we've got the Society for American Archaeology, 5,000 members. Flint is one. Flint's co-author, John Hoops, actually helped to write this letter for the Society of American Archaeology. They're saying that I embolden extreme voices that misrepresent archaeological knowledge in order to spread false historical narratives that are overtly misogynistic, chauvinistic, racist, and anti-Semitic. I mean, you apply those labels to somebody and you're going to get that person hated by a lot of people.
Whole ball.
Yeah,
I did not write that.
No, your co-author, John Hoops, wrote it. We urge Netflix to add disclaimers that the content is unfounded. They want it to be called science fiction. In other words, that's a very clever way of canceling me.
Yeah, I remember watching this one live as it came out. Many archaeologists hate Graham Hancock, especially after Netflix gave him a show in which Graham pushes the theory that Earth was occupied by an advanced civilization that brought knowledge to the primitive Ice Age world, but disappeared due to a natural disaster. He also alleges that archaeologists are ignoring or covering up the evidence because they just think it's crazy. You know, it's the sort of thing that you'd see on Discovery after midnight, but the reaction Hancock received from archaeologists is a bit too much if you ask me. They labeled him all sorts of things and didn't even apologize to the man. I wonder what they'd do if Eddie Bravo got his own show on Netflix. What made it even worse was Dibble's answer right after being presented with this letter.
Go back to that. Why would
and
someone...
here's Flint,
Graham, you're
here's
so
Flint.
much more of a celebrity than me.
Here's Flint. Netflix, correct. I'm sorry.
on.
I'm sorry that I am, Flint. That's not really my problem. Hey,
saying I
Netflix.
have this power.
Hey, Netflix, correct your mistake and reclassify Ancient Apocalypse as fantasy. Netflix corrects your mistakes. This is you pushing this, Flint. And then the general media
tiny
fishy
Twitter
Netflix
accounts?
show, Ancient Apocalypse, is the most dangerous show on Netflix. You used the word dangerous
Where?
repeatedly in your conversation piece.
I think that the way that you refer to archaeology as you say that you're number one enemy of archaeology and things like that, you are promoting people to dislike what we do. We are doing our jobs. No, you started off Ancient Apocalypse by calling us patronizing and arrogant.
Archaeologists see me as public enemy number one.
Now, let me be clear, I'm not here to prove Graham Hancock, but first of all, I'd like to thank Flint for wearing that hat, because I wouldn't have guessed he was an archaeologist any other way. Jokes aside, though, why is someone being more famous than you having to do with the fact that you called them a bunch of nasty words? But when Hancock brought up the example of how other people were attacked by archaeologists and later on turned out to be true, Flint got real angry.
Right, but are you denying that he was attacked for the very thing that you're saying archaeologists don't do?
No, but that's I'm denying there's a coordinated attack. There was no coordinated attack.
I've never said there's a coordinated attack.
On Dillahay, there was not an attack?
No, of course not.
Was there more than one person?
I have no idea. This was before I was even a scholar.
How many architects were
kid.
involved in this? How many, when the people that criticized Dillahay, that went after him?
Oh, a very large number. The Clovis First Lobby, the Clovis Police, as they used to be called by other archaeologists.
It wasn't
well,
one
think
person.
about how many people actually study the Clovis period. That is a tiny period in one area of the world. The majority of archaeologists do not study that. Even Americanist
that's completely
archaeologists,
irrelevant.
most Americanist
It's
archaeologists
fundamental to
study
the
much
issue
later
of the
periods.
It's fundamental to the issue of the peopling of the Americas.
But it's direct. It's also direct evidence of a group of archaeologists going after this one guy for saying something that turned out to be correct.
It's evidence of an academic argument, which happens, yes.
But not that simple, right? Because he was correct, and they dismissed him. They wouldn't listen to his evidence, and he turned out to be correct.
What do you mean? He kept excavating that site. He invited people down there and convinced them that he was right.
If they didn't listen to him, and they didn't take the data, and they did dismiss him, and publicly, they still did all those things that you're trying to obfuscate.
I'm not trying to obfuscate anything. No.
No one was able to convince the other that they were right, but the whole episode is so fascinating. It was one of those moments that proved how Joe is a great interviewer and does not like to take BS from either side. I would love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. By the way, if you enjoyed the video, please share this with your friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.